You wake up on frozen ground. The year is 20,000 BC. And in 24 hours, you will almost certainly be dead. Not from a beast, not from a fall. From 1,000 tiny things you never learned how to do. You probably think you would manage. You're smart, you've seen survival shows. You know fire is warm and water is good. How hard could one day really be? Here is the truth nobody puts in those shows. The people who lived here were not surviving. They were the most skilled humans who ever lived. Every single thing they did took a lifetime to learn. And you have none of it. Let's walk through your last day hour by hour. It starts with the one thing that keeps you alive, fire. To them, fire was not a tool, it was almost a living thing. They never let it die, not for a single night. They kept a glowing ember buried in ash, ready to wake. Carrying that ember was a sacred job, passed down for generations. Now picture you alone when your fire finally goes out. You grab 2 sticks, you've seen this part in a movie. You rub them together as hard as you can. Nothing, just warm wood and raw skin. You never learned that the wood must be bone dry. That you need soft wood here, hard wood there. That you need a nest of dry bark to catch the first spark. They knew all of it without thinking, you know none of it. And the smoke they made wasn't just smoke. Its shape could say danger or food or come to us. It was a language written across the sky. To you it would just be smoke, and no one would ever come. Without fire, the cold finds you within hours. And the dark brings things with teeth. Could you really live, knowing one wet night could end you? Say you survive the night, now you have to eat. To them, the land was a pantry. They read it like a book. They knew which red berries fed you, and which killed you. One looked exactly like the other. You would not know the difference, so you'd guess. And the wrong guess does not give you a second chance. They could tell hemlock that kills from a plant that heals. They had no books, no labels, no way to look it up. Every name lived inside their heads, taught since childhood. Then comes the long cold, when even the land gives nothing. The roots freeze, the rodents hide, the berries are gone. They knew secret ways to find food under the ice. Your body, fed every day of your life, has never known real hunger. Within days, you would be too weak to even look for more. Now imagine you decide to move, to find a better place. They walked hundreds of miles through land they'd never seen. And they always found their way back home. They had no map, no compass, no little blue dot. Their map was the sky. They knew every star, its color, its place, its season. A constellation rising meant winter was coming. You look up and see only scattered lights. Within an hour of walking, you would be hopelessly lost. Your phone trained your sense of direction to sleep. They carried the whole sky inside their minds. You couldn't hold a tenth of it for a single day. Everything they touched, they made with their own hands. No factory, no store, only stone, wood, and bone. They could chip a rock into a blade as sharp as a razor. You pick up a rock and try the same. It shatters into useless dust and cuts your hand. They knew which stone to pick, where to strike, how hard. They made bone needles thin enough to sew skin. Bows that could send an arrow hundreds of feet. Now picture your only blade breaking mid-hunt. They could make a new one in the dark, from feel alone. You would stand there defenseless, holding 2 broken halves. To eat meat you have to hunt, and hunting was an art. They didn't chase with strength, they won with patience. They could follow a track in the snow for hours. They read each print, fresh or old, hurt or healthy. You'd see a dent in the snow and learn nothing. And they never hunted alone. One tracked, one drove the beast, one struck the blow. It was a silent plan of signals and trust. Alone with no skill you would simply starve. And when the hunt won, they did something strange. They thanked the animal for its life. To them, taking a life carelessly was the deepest wrong. Even if you fed yourself, you still need the tribe. Everyone had a place, elders led, hunters guarded. There were no written laws, only unspoken rules. And those rules were as real as life and death. Break them and you face the harshest punishment of all. Not prison, exile. And exile in the Ice Age simply meant death. You'd argue, demand fairness, quote your rights. They wouldn't understand a word of it. In their world, the group came first, always. Then there is the cold itself, never letting up. Their clothes were a second skin between them and death. Every coat began with a hunt and brutal, careful work. They scraped the hide clean without tearing it. They softened it by chewing, rubbing it with fat, smoking it. You would end up with a stiff, cracking board of leather. Their needles were bone, their thread was animal sinew. Your modern jacket would shred in the first storm. and their clothes told stories, symbols of clan and hunt. To them, a coat was a passport you could read. They had no calendar, no dates, no clock. Their calendar was the sky, the animals, the snow. Certain stars rising meant winter was near. A herd moving meant the hunting season had begun. You would wait for a weather app that will never load. A sudden freeze you didn't see coming would simply end you. They never stayed in one place for long. They followed the great herds that fed them. Stay still and starvation found you. Their homes were temporary, built from bone, hide, and wood. Simple, quick, just enough to survive the next storm. You would spend a whole day building a hut and miss the hunt. And go hungry with a roof but no food. They had no books, no writing, none of it. So all their knowledge lived in stories, told around the fire. Each story was a law, a map, a survival manual. Lose the storyteller, and you lose everything they knew. And on cave walls they painted in red and brown. Animals, hunts, the shape of their whole world. To them, painting an animal was a way to call it near. To you, it would be a beautiful, silent mystery. So no, you would not survive your 24 hours. Not because you are weak, because you were never taught. Everything they knew took 10,000 years to gather. Knowledge handed from mouth to mouth, hand to hand. And here is the part that should give you chills. Some of those very people survived, long enough to have children, who had children. A line that never once broke, all the way down to you. Every fire they kept alive is why you are warm tonight. Their will to live is still inside you, quiet but there. You couldn't survive their world, but you don't have to. They already did the surviving, so you wouldn't have to. So tonight, when you feel the cold and reach for the warm, remember the ones who reached 20,000 years before you. They made it so you could simply rest.